Hi, I'm Amy Vincent, ASC, and I'm a director of photography in the movie and television industry. Uh, my overall impression is that there's such advances in OLED technology that all the manufacturers are in a healthy mode of competition to bring the best imaging into the home, which is very important to me as somebody who creates those images, and very excited to talk more about that. The perfect black was hands down the most exciting thing for me to see because I work a lot in the shadow and I work at a very heavy black contrast level in most of my image origination. And I was delighted to see just the difference, the comparison between a matte screen and a glossy screen. And the glossy screen has the ability to really dig deeply into the toe of the curve in terms of detail in the darker areas of the frame, which is something that is a big part of my own work creatively. Dynamic tone mapping allows us to set the detail level in the highlights in the frame, therefore preserving the original intent of the filmmaker. And that is something that I think also carries on in the filmmaker settings that LG has put into the new OLED. For me, because I work in extremes in my lighting, and very, very dark in some parts of the frame and bright in other parts, it allows my intention to stay with the material and be shown on the screen. From the perspective of my profession as a cinematographer, I think the biggest strength of the LG OLED is that I can sit in the color suite doing final color for any given project and have the confirmation that the way that it looks when it goes into people's living rooms is the same as my intent in the room. And it's a way to bring those two worlds together for me. And it's, I very much embrace the technology, and I can watch that at the same time as watching the waveforms and feel confident that my work and the director's work is going out into living rooms in the way that we intended. And that would be Hustle and Flow. It was originated on Super 16. And the detail levels in the blacks of the grain and other aspects of the photography, the color rendition, it's a restricted dynamic range because it was originated on film, but it was recently remastered, and it's very exciting to see what the actual purposeful amount of contrast and grain does in that monitor. I would really love to watch Society of the Snow, photographed by Pedro Luque. It was Academy Award nominated in the in the international category this year, and there's so much white in that movie. It's a plane crash in the snow and the survival of the people that were on that plane. But there's so much white in that frame, but there's also this incredible, very close, very wide lenses on all these men who are suffering in the conditions. And I will just love to see the humanity that comes from the contrast ranges available as a viewer in the monitoring. And I think that it strikes me because of the amount of white that's in the frame, and being able to control the detail level in the highlights was something I know Pedro, the cinematographer, spent a lot of time presenting. So Society of the Snow would definitely be a film that I would love to see on the LG OLED. But you know, I think I would like to see the assassination of Jesse James because there's very nuanced lensing and color work with a lot of halation, and there's incredible contrast ranges in that movie, and I would love to, yes. You know, another cinematographer might also say this, but seeing Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love, amazing. That would be something that I would really love to see. Christopher Doyle is the cinematographer, and the imaging in that movie is so deeply connected to the performances, and that's what's interesting to me. Of course, I'm a technician, but I'm also interested in engaging with visual storytelling and character, and I think to really study a work that I know the power of the visual storytelling and the performances, and to be able to see how it resonates on the LG OLED screen is going to be a real thrill. Well, absolutely, hands down, I would recommend when watching at home that every audience member watches in filmmaker mode. It's the most amazing thing to happen, and it puts the filmmaker's original intent in front of the viewer without a bunch of interpretation or questioning, because we work in an art form where creative intent is used to empower visual storytelling, and I think it's a really wonderful thing, and it profoundly affects how I feel about finishing my own work, knowing that there's a setting in somebody's living room that they can push a button and know what myself and the director and the final colorist all intended for the movie. A Nice Indian Boy, I came to collaborate with a director who's also a practicing oncologist. That's a pretty interesting part of the story. It's a gay romantic comedy about a traditional Indian family and them welcoming a non-Indian into their family. It's a beautiful story about love and acceptance, and it was a really joyful collaboration. It was a small budget movie, and where we were short on budget, we were enriched with passion and collaboration. It was really one of my favorite shooting experiences. My biggest concern was being able to offset. There's a Jonathan Groff plays, he's actually the nice Indian boy, but he's quite a light-skinned Caucasian man, and playing the contrast between the Indian skin tones of Karan Soni and Jonathan Groff it's a big part of the visual storytelling, and having an accurate rendering of their skin tones and the differences in their skin tones without it feeling forced. So it's subtle and nuanced. The Indian skin tones are also, there's quite a range within the family in the story. And on top of that, we have two different big wedding celebrations in the movie, and being able to render the color information in the costuming was really important. The costumes were all custom made to the characters, and the color rendition of those was a very important part of the origination. What's important to me when shooting a movie with musical performance and dancing is to stay with the director's intent in terms of the imaging, and to allow the camera to work in synchronicity with the music. And I think that becomes, it's like a dance with myself and the director. We're constantly sharing and trading ideas. And I think that with any dance number or musical number, there's also an underlying narrative. There's something going on with the characters. And I think being sure that you're always using the camera to visually tell the story, as well as hear the music and dance and sing, I think that makes for the most powerful musical numbers in any movie. I use an example where in Hustle and Flow, you know, they're trying to get the music recorded, and there's all these things coming in from the outside world to impede that progress. And we actually break up the recording of the song with the interruptions, and you get to see into the characters' world and what their frustrations are. So to sum that up, I think what's most important to me when shooting a musical or music-oriented film is to keep the character's journey intact and use the camera to support both the narrative and the characters, all the while giving the space for the music and the dance to come to life. Oh gosh, there's always a new one, and then there's always, I think the piece of work that I'm most proud of is probably my very first film as a cinematographer, and that was Eve's Bayou. 1996 was the year of image capture on Eve's Bayou, and I think because it was my first, I didn't really know all the politics and all the other things that can come in to the creative journey, and so there was a certain naiveness that led to a passionate level of image capture, and I sometimes wish I could go back there. I also really love Hustle and Flow because that film was actually, the story of the film was actually reflected in the process of making the film. We did not have a lot of resources. We were going to get that movie made by whatever means necessary, which is a very similar creative journey to what our main character, played by Terrence Howard, was going through. And Hustle and Flow is a movie about creativity and about collaboration. And I think that is, those two things, creativity and collaboration, are what propels us forward. And no matter what the technologies are, you can't make a movie without creativity and collaboration. So to all the movie fans out there, the people that are gonna watch Hustle and Flow again in the remastered version, or as soon as A Nice Indian Boy comes into your living room, I hope you'll watch it in filmmaker mode. That makes me so happy.